Okay guys, today we're going to be learning how to make a box with 4 sides and a lid with a lip. So this is the image that I'm going to be using as my inspiration for my shape. I've gone ahead and I've cut my clay slabs down to size. The shape isn't going to be exactly like this. I am going to make it where it's a little bit more convex and curving out on the edges, and it's definitely going to be larger than my reference image, but this is just the inspiration of my box with a lid. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've prepped my slabs with my templates. You want to make sure that you have your template cut down to size, and then what you're going to do is you are going to trace this template 4 separate times to get this matching sides of your box. So for this clay slab, I've gone ahead and I've smoothed everything out on this side and on the opposite side, and now I'm cutting the edges at a 45-degree angle to make sure that they are going to attach well to each other on all sides of the box. So notice that I'm not taking away a lot of clay right here. I'm just taking away that harsh corner and beveling the edges. And you can always go back and trim off a little bit more if you need to. I prepped these clay slabs yesterday so they would be a little bit more set up. They're not quite leather hard because we want, or I would like to be able to manipulate the shape once the walls are attached to bow out the sides a little bit without cracking. But we want to make sure that the clay is not too plastic and soft for attaching the walls, or else it's going to really compromise the craftsmanship with being too weak, and the clay slabs are not going to look very nice. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've smoothed everything out on this one, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this side at a 45-degree angle. And then I'm going to do this same step on all 4 slabs. Okay, now that all 4 of my slabs have been prepped at a 45-degree angle, I want to think about how I'm going to decorate the surface of these slabs. And I have decided that I'm going to use a technique called impressing. So you can think of it as kind of like a stamp for achieving my textures. Okay, so now that we have our surfaces, all 4 sides impressed with texture, now we can work on attaching the sides together. So we just need to figure out which sides we want to attach together. And what I think I'm going to do is actually have this doily that's centered be on the exact opposite side as this one, since this one's centered, and then I'm going to have these on either side. So the next step, I bet y'all can guess, if you remember what we do whenever we are attaching 2 pieces of clay together, and how you can tell if it's ready to attach is when you stand it up. See how it's keeping its shape? It's not flopping all over the place, but I can kind of bow it or bend it out without it cracking. So now what I want to go ahead and do is score and slip the sides before attaching them together. So you want to make sure that you have your water and your comb for scoring and slipping. I'm going to go ahead and dip the comb in the water, and since The slab has set up quite a bit. I definitely want to make sure that I'm not just using the comb to scratch into the clay, but that I am dipping it into the water to create that slippiness. So it has that kind of clay glue type consistency to help the sides stick together. And I really, if this is your first time making a box and if you feel like you struggle with clay a little bit, I would highly suggest using a coil on the inside to help reinforce. For my box, I want it to be very delicate and as lightweight as possible, and I really don't want to go in and put that coil in. And because of that, it's extra important that we are attaching the sides really well, making sure that it's fully attached so I don't end up getting any kind of cracks within my seams. So I'm going to go ahead and do. So you can see is I'm going to go ahead and kind of stand up my side here and stand up my side here. You know what, I should have scored the inside right here where it's going to attach. So I'll go back through. Like I said, it never hurts at this stage to make sure that you have plenty of scoring and slipping done anyways. While I'm working on this, I'm going to put it on a I'm going to put it on this so I can move it around without having to handle it too much so it doesn't get too messed up and start falling apart. And the challenge that I have with this is that I want you to be able to see what it is that I'm doing. So I kind of have to hold it at an awkward angle. That just makes it a little bit more difficult for me to manipulate. So when you go to attach your edges, you're going to want to pinch some. And like I said, some of this texture is just going to have to get smoothed in for attaching your edge. So I'm going with my hand on the inside and helping support it while I pinch from the outside to attach the sides together. And then see how that slip is really helping us smooth the edges in. You can even try using the pony roller like this and see. You want to be very gentle because you don't want to crush in your side, especially if you have it sitting like this. That's why I'm supporting it from the inside, but you can see how that really helps seal in that seam we're working on fusing together. And I'm still going to probably need to pinch the top and the bottom a little bit more, but I'll worry about that as I'm adding the bottom in and perfecting the shape. So I'm going to go ahead and smooth out my imperfections. And then I'm going to very carefully set it up on its side, and it's standing. We have two walls put together now that are standing. So now what we want to do, it's going to be the goal to attach the other two sides just the same way, being very gentle to make sure that we are not crushing the box or compromising these clay slabs too much. So you can see the inside. Before I go in and attach the other two, I'll show you what you need to do on the inside. You either need to take a really skinny coil and lay in here, especially if you're not used to this, to make sure that the slabs are really attached well, or they very well could come undone in the kiln if you're not careful, especially if the drying rate of your clay is not the same. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this tool, this wooden tool that's rounded at the bottom right here, and let it act like a fingertip or a thumb with filling in and fusing that crease together. You want to smoothen the inside as you smooth in the outside, and not leave it for last, because once you get all four walls attached, it's going to be very difficult, and you'll have to do it with that last wall of reaching in and smoothing out the inside, but I would suggest going ahead and smoothing out the other ones now as you can, since we can go ahead and reach into the inside fairly easy at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to set it back up, and now, like I said, I want to use this one as the back, so I'm going to go ahead and attach it next, and then I will save this one for last. And I think I'm going to attach this next because, like I said, some of these sides are going to get just like naturally have some of the texture removed to it, but I really do want to preserve the texture as much as possible, so I think it'll be easier if I go in and do that next. And I think what I'll do is I'll score the outside here that you can see, and then I'll score the inside here so they can fit up nice against each other. So again, I'm being super gentle, but I'm really working on pressing these corners together to make sure that they become fully fused. You cannot, it is not enough to just score, slip, and stick. The very last step of them fusing them together is vital for keeping your structure from falling apart. And again, this is always tricky trying to do with capturing it on camera. So I apologize if it's not the best view. There's still a gap there. Okay, so now we have 3 walls on, and remember, like I said before we go and attach this 4th wall, we really want to go in and smooth in the inside right here. So by this point, you should be able to tell if your slabs are feeling secure enough of whether you really need to go in and add that coil on the inside. And I'm also going in right now and kind of working on bowing out the edges before I put on that 4th slab to go ahead and really get that shape of vessel that I want. And I am seeing a little bit of a crack on the inside at the very base. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and make my life easier and attach a little piece of clay to it now versus later when it's hard to reach into the inside. So this clay has been sitting out for a little bit, so it's gotten really hard, and so I'm just going to dip it in the water to soften it up, get it kind of slippy, and then stick it in. And I'm just patching up that little corner real easily. Okay, and then the very last step is this last slab. And you're going to do the same thing. I'm kind of going ahead and curving it out to get its shape. And then I'm just going to want to score and slip on both sides and score and slip on both sides here. Pinch those edges together and you'll have a beautiful ceramic box. And then the next thing that we will work on will be creating the base for it and then the lid. Now you can flip it over and work on filling in these gaps at the base a little bit and reshaping it from up here. I'm just softening these corners with the roller to get them more rounded instead of sharp. I like this whole rounded look since the outside of it is rounded. I've used these rounded designs within it, and I just want to round out the corners a little bit too. You don't have to do that with your box. In fact, you may end up wanting really sharp edges and corners, so you would not fuse them together this way. You would more pinch and then paddle to get a nice sharp angle. That's just not the angle that I'm going for. This is smoothing out some of the imperfections on the lip. Okay, and then I want to go back through and make sure that I'm perfecting everything on the bottom as well. So again, I'm going to very gently handle it, flip it over, and then go in and kind of help attach these a little bit more secure and smooth all of this in.